Pacific Bank building in Miami, Florida. Our phone number is 305-381-7826.
Want to make your smartphone brilliant? One tap creates a virtual wine fine tuner. Another, a coffee refiner. A beauty cream and makeup enhancer.
Wow. Look at your eye.
What a difference.
And with still just a tap, a strength and flexibility harmonizer.
Yeah, I definitely felt something different.
This is the Vitalizer. In the App Store on any smartphone, a simple download that will embed specific frequencies and vibrations into your phone's light photons and sound waves. Calibrations designed to affect taste.
The Vitalizer one is better than the other one, for sure.
Hydration, absorption,
Feels silkier.
and perhaps most incredibly, your strength, flexibility, and energy. Amazing.
Wow.
Crazy.
Well, salud. I'm loving it.
Go to www.vitalizerapp.com and make your smartphone brilliant.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Hi, this is Faith. Welcome to the Faith Washington Show. We will discuss life, business, leadership, family, and fun, and what happens when your view of the world expands. A wide variety of guests will provide insight on how they do business, family, and leadership in their lives. So now, here's today's show. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the Faith Washington Show. I'm Faith Washington, pharmacist and entrepreneur, and I have some really awesome guests tonight. I have Dr. Carlos Orosco, who hails from Australia, correct? And he is actually a specialist in the field of quantum mechanics and epigenetics. He hails from the biological sciences and is an MD, PhD, in every other kind of initial you could put after a name. And with him is Mr. John Wellman, who is the owner of the Vitalizer app, as well as partner in Pinpoint Equine Nutrition. And he is also a former businessman in the precious metals and very successful. So I am so honored to have you both here tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Faith.
You're only in town for a few days from Australia, and wow, you're on my show. Yeah, how do you like that? You know something? We had a show earlier today that we taped for Monday for the Brooklyn Cafe, and so many interesting conversations and pieces of the things that you have done for a good part of your life are in there. And please, I would exhort you to watch Monday's show on the Brooklyn Cafe from 1 to 2 p.m. It's going to be fascinating. And John, also all the things that you're doing now have exploded because of the principles behind what we're going to discuss tonight. Very briefly, although it's going to be in brief and, you know, very simplistic, just give us a wee little bit of your background so that we understand. I know you went from pharma and you became an MD so you could understand it a little better. Sure. And then you began your work in the quantum mechanics field and the epigenetics, and you also did work with pregnancy and cancer so that you could understand, because these two states are very similar. In fact, really similar, and no one would ever know that unless you sat down with a scientist and discussed that on that high level. Yeah. So give us a little bit of a rundown on how this all segued into the Vitalizer app, which I want to show our audience. The Vitalizer app is actually an application that you can get on your phone to alter the actual alignment of molecules, especially of water in the body. And it is extremely beneficial. And it's something that most people wouldn't be aware of, but it looks like this. And I don't think our camera's picking diddly up. There. It looks kind of like that. Okay. All right. So, okay, Dr. Dr. Carlos?
Okay, well, it all started with curiosity, meaning how does something work? How can you make it better? How can you use it? And what I'm talking about is using nature. When you look at nature, nature has all the answers for everything.
Agreed.
It uses something called efficiency, and that is applying the minimum amount of energy to get the maximum return. We as humans are conditioned to do the opposite. We put tons of time, money,
Energy.
and energy into things,
And
sometimes
struggle.
we get
think we should
absolutely
struggle.
and sometimes we get nothing for it.
Right.
In fact, we go backwards rather than forward, and we find ourselves being set back instead of moving ahead. So all this called my attention as to how this can happen, but only happens with humans, because nature never goes into the things that we go in. So
Why do you think that is?
in order to understand that, I studied biology as my first degree. I did something called experimental biology. And then I combined it with biophysics and biochem. So these were my majors when I was doing that degree. That followed with a degree in immunology, a master's degree that I did, in order to understand how cancer cells behave. And I work with tumor cell lines and all these expressing little things that we call glycoproteins that somehow interrupt the communication between that cell and the rest of the body. So that allowed me to grasp that a lot of our issues come from lack of communication. When the system is not communicating within itself, you got interference, and the interference can take you away. You go in a tangent. When you're communicating with someone and you're talking in a conversation like the way we are looking at very specific source of information coming and flowing between us. And that flows right out there into the audience that is listening to this conversation.
Yes.
And we are all synchronizing this beautiful space-time matrix that we call the here and now.
Yes.
Okay? And there comes the tangent. If something, a thought or anything comes and interferes with us and takes us right away from what we're talking about, everybody will lose the plot and say, my goodness, what is going on? I lost it. How come we're talking about this? We were talking about something else. And that's because we're on a tangent.
Right.
And
how often does that happen?
Oh, that happens all the time.
All the time with our
Because
thoughts.
we got
All the time with our
interference.
thoughts, folks.
We got interference.
You got to hear this. This is, I cannot tell you how important what Dr. Carlos Orosco is saying right now. This will affect your life if you will let this sink in. That little segue.
Yeah, because
will
we are
affect your
just
life.
diverting from the route that we were following just because we were distracted by interference. And when you got interference, the communication system breaks down because you said, I cannot follow you anymore. So I switch off. And when I switch off, things can happen. You can go into another train of thought, and all of a sudden you're thinking about something else while I'm talking to you. So you keep on hearing, but you're not listening to what I'm saying. And we lose each other. And when that happens, opportunism takes place. And in the human body, this is done by bacteria, something we call the microbiome. It takes the possibility of colonizing other places where they shouldn't be.
And
But
where
they
is
go
that
there and they cause disease.
microbiome
It's found
start?
in your gut. It's found in the gut.
First brain, second brain.
Yeah, and
First brain, second brain.
And you know something, we're outnumbered. For every single one of your cells, and the human body is said to be made of anywhere between 50 to 100 trillion cells. Multiply that times 10, and you will have an idea of how many microbes you got living inside of you. So we are a living microbe, basically.
A host. We're a host
for all
the
this
microbiome.
catering from this microbiome. And this microbiome has a mind of its own and works in harmony within its own. And normally will work with us. But when we take that tangent and we stop looking at ourselves, because what I call lack of self-love, self-respect for yourself, self-love is the most amazing seed that you can ever plant in anyone's life, making them aware of how important it is to love oneself before you dare to love anyone or anything else. Because that's where your abundance comes from. And then you can give with more and receive it with gratitude before you ever dare to give it away. So that is called abundance, and that means you receive with gratitude and you say thank you, and then you change that into an action and you give it out with love. And that becomes a very powerful engine that is never ending, because you are in a cycle of receiving and then giving, receiving and then giving. And you always receive with the gratitude so that you can give out with love. And that affects, believe it or not, the geometry of water. The geometry of the molecules of water can change. And you can see that in many sites. If you go and dial or Google Masaru Emoto, and see what he's done with the molecules of water, the mysteries of water, or whatever you want to call it, you will see how simple words, simple thoughts can restructure water molecules.
And music.
And music as well.
And music, which is vibration.
Exactly.
Frequency.
And that's how all this comes into place when you look at the Vital App.
Right.
Because all these concepts are put together so that you can cater for your body needs, not for anyone else's, but just for you. And this becomes a very powerful tool that you can realign yourself with your true self. And that is the life that is within you. And that life has two attributes, has love and has light. And love and light plus life allow for the blood in your body to give more life to you, because your pump is the heart. And the heart is not just a pump, it's a connection with your inner self. That's why we talk about 4 hearts, not one.
Right. That's the diagram that we spoke about.
This is the
prior
diagram
to the
that I got, showing 4. Once again, 4 is the number of communication.
Right.
And communication means resonance. It's amazing that the heart has 4 chambers. It's got 4 valves. And each one of those, it's communicating one with the other, so that the body can use the heart to communicate with the entire body. But not only with the body, you can actually, you know what it's like to be in love. I suppose many of us have been in love. And when you find that person that is quite unique in your life, and you think of that person almost 24/7, to the point that it becomes
it's almost like obsession.
Quite an obsession. You know, you cannot do anything with it. When what happens, your heart is ticking like crazy.
Right.
Why? Because you're putting out a lot of adrenaline into this. And when this happens, the body knows exactly the feelings you're feeling. And every single thing that you touch, every single thing that you hear, every single thing that you think is linked to the person that you're in love with.
And it's also in synchronicity with your spirit and your emotions. And when all of those things align, that is massive power. That is why you feel that obsession to completely and totally stay in this feeling of feeling great. Your gut feels great, your brain feels great, your senses feel great. Everything about what you're experiencing feels great. Even when something bad happens, you're like,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
I'm in love. No one cares.
Yeah, true. And that's why what John has been saying before, how that beautiful power within us that allows that love to shine in life, we have shared personal experiences. And it's just amazing that we both, at this point in time in our lives, are experiencing exactly the same thing at the same time with people that are very much alike.
Wow.
And how could that be when we live in different worlds? Just because of what you said, synchronicity.
It's the synchronicity.
And coherence.
And vibrating at that same level.
Exactly.
Because when we begin to vibrate the same, we're attracting the same kinds of things. Many entrepreneurs, people in the audience, have studied or read about the law of attraction. This is what we're speaking about tonight. We're speaking about not only the law of attraction, but the laws of creation.
True.
Why were you brought here? The chances of you becoming a human being are 1 in 400 trillion of a sperm fertilizing an egg.
That's true.
Of the love that occurs between a man and a woman, actualizing is 1 in 400 trillion.
Yeah.
The odds are against us. So if you're here, you're here for a reason.
You're a winner.
You're a winner, baby.
You're a winner.
If you're on this planet, you're a winner.
Absolutely. And we are winners.
Yes.
Because we managed to get that in the history of humanity, no matter how many times we run over it, there's never been a biggest struggle for survival than that a sperm has to go through in order to get to that egg. But it's an amazing thing, and what I'm about to say might shock many people, but it's not a shock to me anymore. I studied this, I became a scientist because of this, and I have worked on this in the scientific world, and we managed to prove it, which is the best part of it. And you know what? There's communication long before you are conceived. There's communication between what we call an etheric body, an etheric world, a world that is out there, and the system that is going to be used in order for that person to be alive right here, right now, and it will happen under any circumstances, at any cost. You know why? At no cost, sorry. You know why? Because we all come here with an intention.
Yes.
And our intention is to find our life purpose. And when we find our life purpose in whatever we do, say, and think, all of a sudden we got significance, and we become significant to other people for the things that we have done and what we have lived through. And there's no better way of putting it than being in love with oneself, because of that time that took you to be where you are right now. You choose your destiny long before
you got here.
You got here. And you came to learn the lessons that you had to learn. And this existence could be just seconds. In my life as working in gynae oncology and infertility, I saw many fertilizations that took place, but they never got beyond that. They were spontaneous abortions. Sometimes they were. Now, an abortion cannot happen until legally you are over 22 weeks into the pregnancy. Before, it's called a miscarriage.
Right.
And normally these can be ectopic pregnancies that do occur. But the being that actually managed to use that vehicle for that little bit of time wanted to know what it was like to be human just for a few seconds, or just for a few minutes, or just for a few months, or maybe a few years. We all came here to satisfy the need, and the need was according to an intention that we put on before we came here. And that is why, no matter what, people will meet each other, because the sperm, there are primordial cells that develop within you as a man, and they have a cycle of 80 days. In women, for example, you got 3 generations in one woman that is pregnant. And this is something that people hardly think about, because they might not know anything about biology.
Right.
But the woman is known, every woman will know, that your fertility period is measured by the number of follicles that you're able to put out when you are in your fertility times. And that normally ranges from the teens to the maybe
40, 35s, 40s, 50s.
Up to 50s, you know, and that's your fertile period. And then nothing. Why? Because you are born with a set number of follicles. And that's it. Once you use them all, that's it. No more. Now, when do these follicles form? Well, they form while you are pregnant with the baby that you've got that is developing her own follicles. So you are pregnant with your baby, and your baby already has the follicles of your granddaughter. And isn't that amazing? You got 3 generations in one. And all of a sudden, this becomes amazing, because you can pass on. Those little things begin vibrating. And they start vibrating, meaning sending energy
signals, communication.
And signals of communication out there into outer space. That is the world that we live in. So through what we call gravitational waves, they can communicate with other beings that will make sure that that gravitational wave becomes an electromagnetic wave. And with electromagnetism, you get sound and you get light. And with sound and light, you can produce something that is amazing. You can create biophotons. These are the, bio means life, photons is light. These are the molecules of life that ends up becoming the chunks: carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur, and phosphorus.
Yeah, if we're getting off into the deep end, because...
But let me tell you what happens.
Right, and our audience isn't going to get all this, so...
They integrate into something we call life.
Yes.
And this is just amazing, because they interact, and this is the beautiful thing about what I have learned, that I can look at it from the scientific side of things, but also the spiritual side of things. And I think the Vital app, bringing it back, so that we're not going in tangent anymore, we're coming into it again. All this technology was put together to do that, to better the quality of life of human beings by allowing them to basically realign themselves with the true nature. And the true nature of the human being is love.
Absolutely. I can't agree with that more. Yes, Dr. Carlos, love is really the center point. And what we spoke about earlier today on the Brooklyn Cafe is that little center point and something that we spoke about earlier tonight was that center point is self-love. That's where it begins. If you don't love yourself, the people around you are never going to get the benefit of the power that was placed in you for your purpose and your plan.
True.
Why you came here as a human being. But when you begin to take the time to nurture the self-love, which is not selfish, it is really selfless. You nurture that, and that ability to proceed from there, from a space of possibility and clarity, which is what deep coaching does, is it allows you and fosters that environment so you are actually coming from a place of clarity. You're not living in the past. You're not basing your life on decisions. You're basing your life on choices in the now and the now and the now.
Sure.
You can't see the past, right? You can't see the future, right? All you have is right here, right now.
Exactly. And that is called space-time.
Right.
Space, here. Now, time.
Time.
And this is the matrix that we live in. It's
Yes.
This moment.
And matrix, and you hear so many people now, oh, you're living in the matrix. Well, that matrix, and we spoke about this earlier too, is the matrix is really what you were programmed to believe. You're programmed to believe that you should, in the United States, have a job, maybe work a job that you hate, 50 hours a week, be miserable, retire, and then die. How does that sound to you folks? I don't know about the rest of you, but you know what? I jumped out of that because I said, you know something, that's not me. Not going there. So if you're sitting in this audience right now tonight and you're listening and you're doing something you really hate, there's another way. There are other things that you can do because you were created for something more. You can be content. You can learn to be content and happy right where you're at until you can shift your thinking so that you can do something that you were intended and purposed for. So incredibly important. And that comes from my heart to everyone else, is that that's my hope. That's really what this show is about, is to take what people who are already out there doing what they love and loving what they do and bringing that to the masses so that people are aware that there's a better way. We can enjoy our life. You weren't brought here to be miserable.
True, very true.
Yeah.
That's
No programs,
exactly- yeah.
no programs, no labels. Nobody needs to tell you that you're codependent, that you're messed up, that you're bipolar. What a bunch of stuff. You know what? Stop letting people label you. Step out of the box and become who you're meant to be, fully in love with your intention, with your purpose.
Yeah, don't let any person, place, or thing get in your way.
Thank you. Exactly,
Move
John.
on. And don't forget, change takes place when change happens. So it's up to you to make the change. And once you do, it is a beautiful world out there.
It is.
And I've done
It's
many
wonderful.
changes. And you make change every single day if you have to, until you find the light. How many things,
Yeah.
Faith, you know how many things
How
I've
many
been
things?
involved
Exactly.
with.
You, me.
Yeah.
Look at Dr. Carlos' resume. Okay, look at his resume.
his resume is
I look at
incredible.
my resume and I think, really? I've done a lot of stuff. But you know what? Everything led up to this beautiful point of all the great people that I get to work with right now. Brian Newsom, Lauren Grace, Dr. Carlos Orosco, John Wellman, Vince Gravina, Michael Miller. Michael, I love you, buddy. There's so many great people. Andrew Weiss. I'm just so blessed. I look over the past couple of years, and it's been amazing. And it's all because of these things that we've been speaking about.
Well, we've made decisions
Choices.
and choices.
Thank you. Those choices, a choice is a different, the distinction is a choice is different than a decision. A decision is based on your past. Can't see your
right.
past, right? But a choice is
When you go
from this
ahead.
cliff, from this aligned cliff that the Vitalizer app helps you recognize and realize because it lines the cells up. 99.9% water, not 75 to 80%. We are 99.9% water. John, how can they get the Vitalizer app? Let our audience
Two
know.
ways you can get it. If you have an Android, you can go on Google, or if you have the iPhone, you go on the iPhone app,
Okay.
or vitalizerapp.com.
Awesome. And Dr. Orosco, we're going to have you back again. I can't wait.
you
or,
can.
or we're going to do a remote from Australia, or
No,
John and I are
wherever
going
I
to
am.
Australia,
we
whatever.
don't know what part of the world to be in, but we'll find them.
Good point, but we'll find him, folks. You know what? Thank you so much for joining us. Gentlemen, I'm
It's a
so grateful
pleasure.
that you are here tonight, and I just want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm so grateful. We're live here on Facebook and Periscope, 95.3 FM, 1470 AM, and the iHeartRadio app at WNN. Thank you guys so much. And Freddie and Dawn, I love you both. I'm so grateful to be able to work with you guys too. All right, have a great night. See you next week.
See you.
You've been listening and watching The Faith Washington Show, where we have widened your view of the world. Our guests share their business, family, and fun life hacks to make your world better. Hope you've learned something to apply to your life and business.
The opinions expressed on the